Over here on the third chain islands, Cedar Dugout, all this area up in here and all the shell. The little cove that's back up in here, out here on the front of the islands on the drop side of Mesquite Bay, or you can get on the Carlos side of the dugout there and fish all that inside of that shell. We've been finding some decent fish in and around these particular areas on the third chain. And again, the same pattern's been holding true. It's shell. A lot of shell bars, shell reefs, pads. That's the kind of thing that we've been targeting here for the last 2 months. We're tapering down to the third toughest consecutive month for us as far as artificial goes. Is just don't have about another week left in this month of August, and hopefully we'll get a little break from the weather, pretty much like we did this past week when this little storm that kind of blew in on us kind of helped everything out, gave us a shot of much needed water rise and kind of refreshed all of our base systems and back lakes and everything else. So that was a big deal for us to get that. Plus, for it not to turn into a hurricane was even better than that. So we got everything we needed from it: rain, water, levels, everything. So we'll take a couple more of those without anything spinning behind it. Will be great. But all that said, up in this area here where all the shell and the islands and stuff we found decent fish in and out of here. Some bunch of smaller trout as well. Again, that's been the same thing that's been happening. So, but you just get through those. You catch a few of those, and you'll catch a solid in and amongst those. It's been doing pretty much has been the pattern for us. You pulled out a redfish or two here or there, maybe even a black drum ever so often. But that's been the three main things that we have caught, primarily trout and a few scattered redfish mainly. Main baits that we've been using in and around these time frames now that we're fixing to transition into that full moon phase. So we've been kind of using a little bit of everything. There's not been one particular thing that's just kind of nailed everything and kept everything pretty much on the same track. So top water super early has been productive for us. Caught fish on that and had a lot of good opportunities with that. Then we're switching over to in the Down South series, the original size, in the burner shad, your darker flavors, Big Papa, Twisted Tea, White Ice, Purple Rain. Those have all been pretty much a constant. Watermelon Red in the original size. Another one is called Copperfield that's in the original size. It's been good. Those two flavors have been pretty money for us in this dirty, a little bit more off-color water. And then again, you just kind of have to match and see what your bait system is for what the water clarity is. Weather-wise, it's been very good for us. Again, the much-needed water push that came in here and kind of refreshed everything, opened up more areas to fish for us that we've kind of been pushed into particular areas. So that's been helpful as well. In the knock and tail, the main one there, that's been the Rogue flavor and heavy metal has been the two constants in it. Of course, the jerk shrimp has been all right for us as well. And we've been throwing that and bouncing that off the shell and everything there. So we've had some pretty good success with that along with that. Of course, Double D, haven't thrown it a bunch, but we've had somebody try one on here or there ever so often on a particular trip here or there, and it doesn't it's done okay. We've caught fish with it. Somebody's caught fish with them at some point. Of course, also the soft dine has been a good choice as we're going to start transitioning toward these fall months are not terribly far away. We're going to be into September soon. October is right behind it, and November, and of course, these cooler months, we'll start changing our approach and areas and everything else with that. But for now, it's still going to be over hard-packed sand, shell, and grass. All from the Mott, all this shoreline, headed all the way down to Allen's, has all been pretty consistent for us. We've scattered out, and you find some trout on certain parts of it, and you find some redfish on certain parts of it, maybe an occasional black drum every so often, pull out a flounder out of one of the sand pockets that are up and down the shoreline. So, but it's been, for the past week, it's been okay. It's like I say, it's not anywhere has been a just knock it out of the park home run for us, but we've consistently caught fish, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for those opportunities in different areas, especially during where it's still a tough time. We still got, water temps, even with that little passage that we had that came through here last week, that little storm front, water temps dropped just a little bit, air temps dropped just a little bit, but it wasn't long enough for us to experience a long-term adjustment from that temperature-wise. I mean, we jumped right back up in the 90s again. The water temps did the exact same thing. They went right back up. So couple of days, maybe 3 days at most, we got a break from it. Then it went right back the other way. So, and that pattern still holds true. The bite frames are like extremely short. You better target some fish in and around those majors and minors, wherever they are for you during the process of the day. If it works out for you, fish during your morning hours or your evening hours, then outstanding. That's good. If you're having to fish during the middle of the day, you're going to struggle some. That's just the way it's going to be until we get some type of drastic change weather-wise. But that said, so you kind of get back onto the same pattern, same game plans. You find some deeper water that's adjacent to some shallower water that you're fishing, pockets, grass, hard-packed sand, shale, all that kind of stuff is the stuff that we're still continuing to look for and finding fish over those types of structure. Bait's prevalent everywhere. You got plenty of it. That's not a problem there. Sometimes you may have to contend with the amount of bait that's in there, but you can make your baits stick out that make those fish want to eat those. So and that's always our goal. Down here on the point, down here on Allen's, all this area out here, it's a great little wading area there. You got proper kind of structure that's in there. You know, we're throwing the down south burner shads and the original size off of this point and this grass that's all up here on this. Just working those grass pockets out a little bit deeper as the sun gets a little higher. If you can get there early enough in the morning, you have some opportunity to throw in top water, maybe on the inside here on the shoreline that heads toward the back of Allen's Bight and all those particular areas, and it'll give you different opportunities as long as you understand what the structure is and where it's at and what kind of current that you may have, whether it be wind driven or tidal driven. But all that said, we've had some opportunities in here, and that's what we're looking for. Again, big pop of pearl, twisted tea, white ice in the down south, watermelon red, also in the Mirror Little John's, watermelon red, red and gold glitter, kitchen sink. Those flavors have been pretty consistent for us as well. Knock and tail. More so here, it's been more of the heavy metal and greenback up in here so much. Not so much with the rogue flavor has been as productive as the other two flavors have. And again, we're bouncing some shrimp, the Marker 54 shrimp off some of these shell pads that are scattered amongst back in here, and maybe even get back in these back lakes and work these edges. And you can find you some redfish kind of cruising in and around that, or maybe even an occasional black drum. But those areas there have been pretty consistent this past week, and even the weeks leading up to this. Periodically we've hit those areas, and we've had some pretty good days that we've been on those. So just continue to work these. Again, majors and minors are going to be key. Early mornings have been most productive for us. If you're able to get there for that, then that's great. If you're going to do the evening time, of course, you know you got a full moon coming, so early mornings and late evenings are going to be your target time frames anyway. So just kind of factor all that stuff in, pay attention to what your weathers are doing, and you'll locate and find some fish. The turtle pen, all back up in here, Copano Creek area. This little flat, all these little back lake mouths that dump out into this area till Shell Point that comes always back around here. This is a great little area. You've got lots of different structure, lots of different things that you can fish and how you can fish it. It sets up really well. It's a little protected code for the most part, unless you have a direct west wind that kind of blows into it that may be a little stiff sometime. So when that happens, this one's a little bit more difficult to fish, but it's still fishable. But you can fish it out of your southeast, north, northwest, whatever. It's all sets up really well. These shorelines here, we've got nice hard-packed sand shell areas here. You got some back lake mouths that dump out into this little cove that's back in here. We're fishing those drains that go back into some of the marshes. Now, again, with our water levels where they were prior to this little tropical depression we had last week, those drains were pretty skinny for the most part. You could still find some scattered fishing every so often, but not as much. Now that we've had some water push that's came back in here, and it's kind of refreshed our lakes and ponds and estuaries that we've got and little back lake areas, it's kind of revitalized things. So we've located some fish in some areas that really haven't been there consistently over the past few months. Get back in here where you got that little gut that runs back toward Copano Creek. All this back area in here, of course, when we get that extra water that pushes back in here, you got a great opportunity to get back here in the creek that goes further back, way back up in here. And if you got the right kind of boats, you can get back to some of these areas. It's not been super accessible unless you've been in an airboat here for the last couple of months, just because of the amount of water that we haven't had. Again, when those water pushes comes in from a depression out in the Gulf, and we get a big influx of water, so it opens up fishing areas that we hadn't had an opportunity, and fish like to kind of explore a little bit. So always keep that in mind and pay attention to what your tides are doing. It's extremely important when you got opportunities like that, because you can capitalize on something that hasn't been able to be able to do for a little bit because of that. So that's going to probably have another opportunity or two. We'll get another push or something. We'll get into that Gulf and we'll get some more water in here. Working all these edges up here. It's a lot of sand. There's some scattered flounder that we've caught in here off dragging their little burner shads across some of these potholes and some of these grass patches that are in this area. All this in here just gives you opportunity. You got shale, you got mud, you got grass, you got hard packed sand, you got edges, you've got guts, baits working back in here consistently. So there's always going to be an opportunity at some point somewhere back here in Turtle Pen in this whole little cove area. Just, you can go up there and spend your 4, 5, 6 hours and really work sections of it and not even come close to covering lots of it. So if you get your chance to get back up in this area and work these areas, take your time with it. Get out, wade the shorelines. All of them are very accessible. None of them are like too terribly bad as far as mud goes. They're all pretty firm for the most part. And on top of that, you'll give yourself an opportunity, especially if it's kind of a tough day. You'll get opportunities back in here. Again, pay attention to what your tides are doing weather-wise. We're going to kind of volatile time of the year with stuff that may be brewing out in the Gulf. Majors and minors, again, we've got full moon that's not too terribly far away, so always remember about that profile size when you're trying to locate your fish.